Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Apologies for my voice today guys, I think yesterday's upload has kind of broken it. So the Primarch face-off rolls on, with our next batch of round 1 duels. And today we'll be discussing Perturabo versus the Khan, Leman Russ versus Rogal Dorn, and Vulkan versus Fulgrim. General spoiler warning to begin, as we will be discussing lore from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. So without further ado, let's crack on with match number 1. Perturabo, the Lord of Iron, versus the Khagan, Jaghatai Khan. Now these two have both had their own Primarch weeks on the channel, and they've really endeared me to both of them, giving me a much greater insight and understanding of their minds and nature. Just what makes the both of these Primarchs tick. And if you missed out on Perturabo week, I really recommend you should go back and check it out, because it will give you a much greater appreciation for the Lord of Iron. Perturabo truly is iron within and iron without. He might bend, but he will not break, and his mind is as sharp as a freshly forged blade. He is brutal and unrelenting, ordering decimation of his legion without any hesitation, and he is no different in battle, even going toe to toe with a demon elevated Angron. And let's make no bones about it, he beat Angron down. Now yes, in fairness, he did deny Angron the bloodshed he needed, draining the demon's power. But he still stood face to face with the beast, and smacked him straight in the mouth. This achievement cannot, and should not, be overlooked. Now he won't have Forgebreaker here, as that was still firmly in the possession of Ferrus Manus during the Great Crusade. But he would be adorned in his Terminator armour, the Logos, which does give him a huge advantage in durability. However, speed is well and truly on the side of the Khagan. Jaghatai Khan has gone from unknown element to one of the most feared Primarchs in battle throughout the course of the Heresy series. While many of his brothers may not like or even understand him, they all respect him as a warrior, and they would be right to do so. In the ruins of Prospero, we saw him face Mortarion, and while no outright victor was clear, it was Mortarion who retreated. And you want to talk about demons, Perturabo? Well, we've seen the Khan rip the heart straight out of the chest of a Keeper of Secrets with his bare hands. And there's still the fabled moment he utters the line, "Pull away," and then proceeds to eviscerate the entire Orc force by himself, with his legion of White Scars and Sons of Horus just standing watching, listening to the cries of the Orcs as they wail in terror. Oh man, chills every time. This is truly a case of the irresistible force meeting the immovable object. Speed versus toughness. Would the offense of the Khan be enough to break the Lord of Iron? It would be an awesome fight for sure, and like I said earlier, the beatdown of Angron really does deserve respect. You really cannot simply disregard Perturabo here. And it may well be just my heart talking, but I'm going to side with Jaghatai Khan. I think the Warhawk will be just too much for the Lord of Iron. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the main event. Leman of the Russ versus Rogal Dorn. Man, this is a semi-final quality matchup at the very least. The Emperor's Executioner versus his Praetorian. Now we know where my loyalties lie with this one. And look, I like to think I can be realistic in my views. Do I think Russ can beat Sanguinius? Probably not. The Wolf King admits that himself. But gather round, come closer to the fire, and allow the Wolf Lord to tell you the legend of Russ. No, look, this would be a hell of a contest. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Russ is the Emperor's Executioner, raised upon the death world of Fenris. He is as brutal and savage as the Norse gods of old. But make no mistake, beneath this exterior lies an intelligent and calculating mind. Russ is heavily rumoured, and all but named, as being responsible for the destruction of the lost 2 Primarchs. Meaning Russ could already have killed 2 Primarchs, or more likely, drag them back to Terra in chains. And then of course, the third one we got to see, the raising of Prospero, Magnus versus Russ. In a brutal encounter, Leman Russ broke Magnus's back across his knee, snapping the Primarch's spine in 2. And that, as far as I'm concerned, is not even his greatest victory, because we saw the Executioner take on the War Master himself. Despite all the cries and pleas to not go, that it would be suicide to face Horus, now that he had been embraced and elevated by the ruinous powers. But not only did Russ not shirk from his duty, he won. Now don't give me none of this Horus won malarkey. Russ drove the Emperor's spear right into the guts of the chaos-embraced War Master. Russ had him broken and beaten on his knees. The only reason he didn't end him right there, aside from the obvious plot armour, was because he truly cared for the first brother he had ever known. He wanted Horus to return to Terra and be cured by the Emperor. Wielding his frost sword Mjolnir and axe Hellwinter, Russ would have no fear of the Emperor's Praetorian. But look, I am not making light of Rogal Dorn. He has legions of fans, and rightly so. We have been waiting a decade for the siege of Terra, and finally now, Rogal has his time to shine. And he really is doing just that. Rogal Dorn, for all his reputation as a boring, fortifying tactician, is an absolute badass. Credit where credit is due. He is one of the few Primarchs to kill one of his brothers. And yes, Alpha Legion fans, I'm saying it again, Alfarius is dead. Because Dorn took him out like an absolute boss, willingly tanking a hit from Alfarius' spear straight into his own shoulder, before coldly and smoothly decapitating his own brother, bringing his chainsword straight through Alfarius' head. Definitely one of the better written Primarch fight scenes in all of the series. And it's not just that, because we get Rogal Dorn going toe to toe with an ever more depraved and insane Fulgrim on the walls of the Imperial Palace, in what is definitely a scene I can't wait to cover on the channel. Despite Fulgrim staying in his mortal form, trying to taunt Rogal and distract him from the fight, it's another great example of the cold and calculating Dorn in battle, because he eviscerates the Phoenician, plunging his sword straight through his torso. Though of course Fulgrim doesn't die and reveals his true demon form, there's no doubt Rogal is absolutely no nonsense in battle, interested in only defeating his enemy. So when I say this is the main event, I'm really not joking. Two Primarchs who know what it is like to spill a brother's blood. Yes, of course, I'm a Russ fan, and I do truly believe that Russ would win this encounter. Simply, there was a reason he was made to be the Emperor's executioner. Russ was made to face any of his brother Primarchs. And don't give me the Knight of the Wolf, in what was clearly Russ trying to open Angron's eyes. But if you really want to use that, I'll bring up a certain beatdown Dorn received from the Night Haunter. No, look, seriously, I would expect this to be a close run thing within the lore, and within the votes too. I really do feel that Rogal has shone the more that the Heresy series has progressed. There are only a handful of Primarchs that I could see him losing to, but I do feel that Russ would be one of them. I guess the deciding factor for me is that Horus was always rumoured to be the best of them, perhaps the only Primarch who could beat Sanguinius one-on-one, and that was before his embrace by Chaos. And Russ took him on after he was embraced by the Ruinous Powers, and whatever way you wish to look at it, Russ did have him beaten, and on his knees. Oh man, I'll be watching the votes on this one on the edge of my seat. And finally on to match number 3. Vulkan taking on Fulgrim. Man, feels like a bit of a step down after the last matchup. No offense, Vulkan fans, you know I love me some of the big guy. This is definitely a contrast of styles. The powerhouse of Vulkan and the dexterity of Fulgrim. Vulkan, we know, is about as human as a Primarch can get. He fights only for the survival and safety of humanity. But do not let that fool you. Vulkan is a living, breathing tank on the battlefield. Without a doubt, the strongest of all the Primarchs. Stronger than Angron and stronger than the Gorgon. This guy held back when sparring against his brothers, because he didn't want to hurt them. Now that is impressive. Vulkan can toss land raiders around like orcs do to Gretchen. Fulgrim, despite being a Primarch, has no hope of matching power with Vulkan, let alone Vulkan's durability. Vulkan, as we know, is a perpetual, able to come back from wounds that would slay another Primarch, and even come back from death himself. We haven't been blessed with much Vulkan versus other Primarch content, but we have had a rather comical moment where Vulkan smashes Kurz around like a baseball player, slinging home runs all over the park. But for all these advantages, is it truly enough to slay Fulgrim? The Phoenician, as we know, decapitated an enraged Ferrus Manus, which is no mean feat. He is renowned as a swordsman almost without peer. His skills with a blade, like everything in his life, a quest for perfection. Fulgrim absolutely has speed and dexterity on his side. While he may not be able to match Vulkan for power, he most definitely beats him in terms of skill. So which way are you guys going to vote, with the Phoenician coming up against the Lord of Drakes? This is a tough one for me, because Fulgrim truly had his moment to shine so early on in the Heresy series, nigh on 10 years ago. Ever since then, it feels like his star has been declining, while other Primarchs have been on the rise. So I don't really feel that over the past few years, Fulgrim has been given the respect he deserves. But if I had to make a pick, I absolutely love me some Vulkan. I don't think he ever drops out of my top 5 Primarchs. But Fulgrim did kill Ferrus Manus. I think on that point alone, I will have to side with Fulgrim. but it's definitely a close run call. Okay guys, you know the drill by now. The polls to vote will be in the video description, so make sure to cast your vote ASAP. Make sure you get the vote in quick. Huge thank you to all my subscribers. Your support truly means a lot to me, it truly does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again tomorrow as the Primarch face-off continues.